Hey folks, Bob here, Bob'sPlumbingVideos.com. In 2013, I did a video titled How to Remove a Broken Piece of Pipe. I will link that video up in the cards up above in the description below. And basically, it was my tabletop demonstration of when I started making videos. And it was okay, but this one is the 2019 version of that one. And this is a much better video, in my humble opinion. So stick around. Hey, welcome folks. Bob here from Bob'sPlumbingVideos.com. On this channel, I provide free plumbing tutorials for people who don't want to call a plumber. No scientific data, no fancy chemical breakdown of the materials I use in these videos, just common sense solutions to everyday plumbing problems. After all, folks, you shouldn't have to take out a mortgage to be able to afford a plumber. If you're new to the channel, I highly recommend you subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit that bell notification so you'll be notified of when I post a new video. Now, let's get into this video. Oops, I almost forgot. Get lost. All right, so here are some different examples of nipple extractors. I'm sure it's not all that's out there. If you don't see the type you're familiar with, forgive me, please. But these are the most popular ones that I'm aware of and that I've used. So to start off with, my opinion is the type A and type C, which are available in most of the home centers, don't work. Period. End of story. That's my opinion. If they've worked for you, you've gotten lucky. They're not consistent. They're made cheaply. I find that the fluted extractor portions of the tools have actually broken off when trying to remove a piece of pipe. And when I'm in a situation where I need to get the piece out and I'm trying to maneuver things, I can't be playing around with these substandard pieces of equipment. So in my opinion, I would keep away from the A and C styles. I grew up predominantly with the B and D styles. B mostly. They work really well. These are American companies, although there are faux versions of them, imported versions of them out there. For the most part, the ones you're looking at here are made by American companies. They all come in varying sizes. You have to buy them for the size you're trying to remove: 3/8, ½ inch, 3/4, 1 inch, etc., etc. Although I will tell you, anything above 3/4 of an inch, I usually cut it out with a hacksaw blade. And I'll demonstrate that for you once we get through with this screencast. At any rate, most of the time I use the B style. Really good piece of equipment. My only, I guess, complaint is that they're rather narrow, long and narrow, and they had a tendency, if you were trying to remove a broken piece, a short piece from an elbow, they would hit the back of the elbow before they actually had a chance to grip the broken piece. So what we would do is get a grinding wheel and take maybe 1/3 of the tip off to as much as 1/2 of the tip off, so that we could use it in an elbow or in the bull run of a T. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's the T portion of the T, if you will. Because again, that tool will also hit the back of the T before it has a chance to grip the broken piece. So we would cut them off, and I would cut off a couple of tools, one of each size, and have those dedicated tools when I was trying to get a piece out of an elbow. Anyway, we move on to D. I no longer own one of these, but back in the day, you could take that bolt, that threaded bolt there on the right, screw it clockwise, and as you screwed that down, the little jaws there on the left-hand side would expand, and they would grip onto the broken piece on the inside. And then you could use your wrench or whatever tool you guys use, and counterclockwise, it would remove the broken piece. I currently use the E style. That one you're looking at, although there's not a name on there, it looks exactly like the Walton brand that I use. You can buy them individually. You can buy them in sets. I own a set, I think, from 1/8 up to 3/4 of an inch. They go all the way up to, I think as high as 2 inch. I personally wouldn't use a nipple extractor for a pipe that large, but I may be wrong. It may only go up to 1.25 inches, but at any rate, anything 1 inch and larger, I cut out with a hacksaw blade. And I'll demonstrate that once we get down to the bench. But at any rate, these are some types of nipple extractors. Again, I would stay away from the Type A and Type C versions, which you're going to find in the big home centers. Uh, the the B, the D, and the E, they are winners. I currently use the E style. It's short and stubby. It grabs that broken piece really, really nicely and seems to do the job relatively well. So, other than that, let's jump down to the bench and I will demonstrate in real life what these puppies can do. All right, before we jump over to the vise, I just wanted to show you a couple examples of the extractors that I showed you in that screencast. Now, I don't know, I can't find my half-inch version of this particular extractor, but I'm gonna give you an example. This is a 3/8. This is for 3/8 inch pipe, and these manufacturers basically designate a number correlating with the size pipe. So, for instance, this is a number 6, and this would be used to remove a broken piece of 3/8 pipe. Could be brass pipe, could be black pipe. But just as an example, I wanted to just show you and make you aware that because they're a little bit of a longer profile, when you're trying to remove a piece from an elbow, and bear in mind when a piece of pipe snaps off, as a rule, not always 100%, but as a rule, it's going to snap off flush. Pretty much, if you're putting a lot of torque on it and it snaps off, it's gonna just break off flush, and that's just the way it is. And although this is 3/8 and this is half-inch, so this actually won't really work in here. But the example being, even if this was a half-inch extractor, I find what happens is as you try to drive this in, and we're going to go counterclockwise because you see those flutes on the extractor. As you drive it in, the idea is it's going to latch onto that piece and dig into the piece, thereby being able to remove it. But because they're so long, I find that what happens in elbows and T's. So if it's an elbow and T connection, the problem that happens is that it hits the back of the fitting before those flutes have a chance to grab the piece. Now, I will admit, if you have a longer piece that's broken off, let's say it's an inch away from the face of the fitting here, that's going to aid the tool in grabbing before it hits the back of the elbow or the T. But again, in most cases, when a piece breaks, it's going to break flush. So what we used to do is we used to go get a grinder and actually cut the tip off of this. We would cut the tip off, maybe a third of the tip to a half, so that this would be able to grab the broken piece before it hit the back of the fitting. So that's the downside of this type of extractor, although these are the extractors I grew up on. And again, like I said, I don't know where my half-inch ended up, but I have like a 3/4 inch version of this, and this is a 3/8 version of this. But what I use today is the Walton, and Walton is the manufacturer that makes these extractors. And this is a kit, and this particular kit goes from 1/8 inch pipe to 3/4 inch pipe, and these are all numbered. They have numbers on them. Let's see if I can bring this up closely. And the numbers correspond with the size pipe. So they start from a number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And 5 is for 3/4 pipe, 4 is for half-inch pipe, 3 is for 3/8 pipe, 2 is for 1/4 inch pipe, and number 1 is for 1/8 inch pipe. But as you can see, these are short and stubby. And what that allows the extractor to do is it allows it to grab onto that piece without having that extractor hit the back of the fitting. So I use these today. This is my preferred extractor. And I'm not being paid by Walton to say this. I just discovered them one day and I said, wow, these things are fantastic. Now, we will go on the bench and I'll show you how they work. But basically, they're nice, short, and stubby, and they literally latch on to the piece way before the extractor has a chance of hitting the back of the elbow. So at any rate, and I don't know if you noticed, but this is the wrong size extractor. This is for 3/4, and I have a piece of 1/2-inch pipe here. So we would be using the 1/2-inch extractor. Again, it grabs. It grabs before this thing even gets to the back of the pipe. So we're good to go. Now, two other pieces I wanted to show you, and I don't really I don't use these to remove broken pieces of pipe, but I use them to remove, if I break a shower arm off when I'm going to do a shower arm, and I happen to break the shower arm inside the wall. And I did a video about this, and I will link that video down below, and I will link it up in the cards above. But this is a superior shower arm extractor tool, and this is made in America, although it looks like those cheap versions I showed you in the screencast. This is an American-made tool that works really, really well. And shower arms, this is a broken shower arm piece, and that goes in there really, really nicely, and that latches on. Again, there's flutes counterclockwise. They dig into the piece and they remove the piece. So that works real well. And to release them, you got to go clockwise, and they release. That's one version. This is a superior version. The other version I discovered was from a company called Gooseneck Gripper. And basically it's a T-handle, same thing. You can get it in there and go counterclockwise to remove that piece. And they even give you this handy little hole in the handle here. You can stick a screwdriver in there to give you a little leverage when you're going to extract the piece. So again, I made a video about these particular two tools, and I'll link that up in the cards up above. And so that's pretty much it in terms of the extractors. Now let's go over to my rigid 400 table mounted pipe cutting machine, and I'll give you a live demonstration on removing a broken piece of pipe. All right, so job circumstances are actually going to dictate, basically how you approach removing the piece in terms of, I like to set the extractor in there by giving it a tap with a hammer, but sometimes you don't have that kind of room where you could actually get a hammer and make a swing on it, in which case you'll just have to push on it and go in a counterclockwise fashion to get it out. But as you can see, there's a broken piece in here. This is a piece of 3/4-inch pipe. And basically, if I have the room, and I generally do when trying to remove a piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and in this particular case, this is the number 5 Walton extractor. And that's going to go in there, and I may have to step away from this microphone a second, so please forgive me if the sound fades out. But let me give this a little tap. You hear that? It got kind of a nice solid sound to it. And then, depending upon your method of using your tools, I use a spud wrench. This is a spud wrench, which has no teeth on it. And basically it goes something like this. And let's see if we can give you a better shot of this. And as you can see, the piece actually is coming out. So I set it, and in a counterclockwise fashion, that Walton extractor just, it does an incredible job. In the field, whether you're doing a demonstration, I find that these work incredibly well. And just one more thing I'm going to show you is this is 3/4-inch pipe. Anything basically above 3/4, for instance, starting with 1 inch and above. I don't really use an extractor, although they make extractors that large. First of all, I do service and repair work, and I really, 3/4 and 1/2 inch pipe is what I run across predominantly. But if I come across a larger piece of pipe, I actually hack the piece out. And I'm going to show you an example of that in this next frame. But that is a Walton. This is a number 5 extractor, which is for 3/4 inch pipe. All right, so this is a 1 inch piece of pipe. And as I said, I generally don't use nipple extractors in anything over 3/4 of an inch. That's just me. Again, job circumstances are going to dictate how you remove a broken piece. You may not always have the room to swing with a hammer. You may not always have the room to put a wrench on it and swing one way or the other. It's all going to depend on job situation. But at any rate, when I have a large piece of pipe, such as you're looking at here, and I'm going to have to pull this camera back a second, because I want to show you some tools you're going to need. But I generally make a cut. I'll make one cut at the top. Now you can, if you wish, you can make a cut to the left. You can make a cut here to the right, straight up, and knock the piece out. You can take like a quadrant of piece of pipe out, and then you can collapse the remaining thread in, and it'll come right out. But I mean, I generally up to 1.25 inches, I actually make one cut, and that would be on the top, and it's through use of 2 tools. And let me just pull this camera back and I'll show you that. So you can most certainly use a tool like this, where you can get a hacksaw blade and mount it inside its handle here, and the teeth are always facing away from the handle. Just keep that in mind. And then you could come in, we could go, if we're going to make one cut in top, again, you got to keep it straight. You don't want to be doing this on an angle, up or down. It's got to be relatively straight and flush. And, I've used these, most of my career, until I discovered my secret little weapon, which is the Lennox mini saw. This has like 32 teeth per inch on it, and it makes a nice fine cut. And when these blades are new, it makes a really quick cut, straight up and in. Again, I'm going to keep it nice and straight. We don't want none of this going on. We don't want none of, pointing down going on. It's going to be nice and straight up, not quite all the way through. We just want to just about barely nick the interior threads of the fitting, because we don't want to screw the fitting up. And after we make that cut, you'll see once I do it, you're going to need a couple of tools. And I have 2 different versions of caping chisels, and basically they're made to knock pieces out. You'll see the one in my left hand is just angled, kind of like on a 45-degree angle, and the other one, which is for some reason not in focus, that's got a double bevel on it, and it just makes it easier to knock the piece in. So with that in mind, let me show you how I do it. So apologies for the shaking, but essentially that's how it's done. I made one cut. I hit it with my chisel, my little caping chisel. You collapse it. Actually, once it pushes in, it'll get loose by itself. But again, you can make one cut, you can make two cuts, knock the small piece out, and then collapse it. But up to about 1.25 inches, I generally make a single cut, collapse the piece, and that's it. And listen, sometimes you'll make a little score inside the threads. A little score is not a problem. I mean, if you make a really deep cut in there, that's not a good thing. But at any rate, that's how I do larger diameter pipe. And I hope you got some useful information out of this video on nipple extractors. And absolutely don't be afraid to attempt something like this yourself. It's not all that difficult. Again, it's not brain surgery. Some common sense is all you need. So my apologies for a little bit of the shaking of the bench, but hey, you know, my big 400 baby here is mounted on my workbench, and it's got a little flutter to it. But this bench has been in my family since I was a kid. I can remember going to work with my pop when I was 15, 16 years old, and this bench is a beast. So there you go, folks. Now, although things in the video look relatively simple, and they generally are, keep in mind that in a real life situation, you may be inside of a wall, you may be in a corner, you may not be able to swing that hammer to set the extractor, so you're going to have to use your due diligence or a little bit of common sense on how to go about removing that piece of pipe. At any rate, if you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend you to subscribe to my channel. Also hit that notification bell so you'll be notified of when I post a new video. But more importantly, hit that thumbs up button. When you hit that thumbs up button, it tells YouTube that you're enjoying the videos, and it'll spread my videos around to more eyes, thereby helping more people. Folks, I'm always happy you stop by to look at my videos. Keep in mind, there are a couple of videos that are going to pop up here to your right. One of them I chose, one of them YouTube chose. As always, I want to thank you for stopping by the channel. Stay well, and as always, happy plumbing.